We're all emotional creatures fueled by many different feelings, sometimes anger, sometimes hope, sometimes altruism. Deep inside each of us are fundamental needs and wants. Obviously, we need to survive, but the conditions for why we want to survive change as our own worlds change around us. Often these are thought out in dualities with spectrums in between. We're either happy or sad, and the spectrum in between might be the magnitude of our fulfillment on the happy side or despair on the sad. In the Near series, nobody better embodies the spirit of duality than Kainé. This video explores and analyzes Kainé's theme and attempts to articulate why the composers of Near did such a phenomenal job composing her theme, and with both beauty and simplicity. For this video, I'm going to spend time in the beginning analyzing the form, getting into the nitty-gritty of what the music reflects and what's inside it. Then I'll turn to Kaine and show how music actually portrays this beautiful portrait of who she is in terms of sound and artistry in the music. And if you made it this far, turns out most people watching my videos are new. So if you like music analysis videos, please support me by subscribing to my channel. I've got a goal of getting to 500 subscribers, and I would love for you to join me on this journey. Maybe this is just where I'm at on my own personal musical journey, but I've come to have a deeper and deeper appreciation for form and music and how we as composers can creatively structure our compositions. Typically, as we get older, mature, we're more and more able to broaden our outlook. As an example, when you're 5 and properly cared for, you don't typically care about where your food came from. You don't worry about what kind of job you're going to have in your mid-30s. You're just 5. But as you get older, your sense of time, space, and reality zooms out beyond yourself. You become self-conscious, but also aware of other people's feelings. You begin to also be curious about the world around you in new and profound ways. I think that's one of the unique things about being an artist. Regardless of age or your accomplishment, there's plenty more to explore, learn, and experience no matter how old you are. When I look back on my high school and undergrad years in music, I can see how unfocused and zoomed in I was. I was struggling to understand music, let alone zoom out and creatively interpret or create unique phrases and forms, like I'm doing now. And if I'm being honest with myself, I understand I'm pretty average. And nowadays I embrace that. One of my favorite quotes by Bach is, "I was obliged to be industrious. Whoever is equally industrious will succeed equally well." So to me, that means a successful, fulfilled composer is not one who wins awards or earns so many commissions he or she can buy a yacht, but one who's willing to continuously dedicate themselves to practicing their craft day in and day out. This industriousness, or having the discipline to compose or write each and every day, is what allows us as composers to appreciate how others approach their compositions, form, and phrasing. We grow in ways we don't quite notice when we're disciplined. This growth then allows us to zoom out and first inspect a composition's form. Most of the compositions in the Near soundtrack are songs. Songs typically have a verse-chorus structure, even simpler, music in 2 parts. This has been true when I've inspected Emil's theme, and it's been true in Grandma's theme as well. And if you've not seen those videos, please check them out. The links are in the description. For Kainé's Salvation, or Kainé's theme, I found some transcriptions online. One that was particularly useful, links in the description, was notated as 3/4 in the first section and 6/8 in the second. At first pass, we hear that the first section's slow and the second's fast. After listening to the song on repeat though, and spending more time with the score, I had a sort of light bulb moment when it came to understanding this song's form and analysis. While there is a tempo change, I found myself surprised to find that while it makes sense for the first section to be 3/4 time with a slightly faster tempo in 6/8 in the second, I think it makes more sense from an analysis and phrasing perspective to make both sections 6/8. The difference here is that the first section would be in half-time slow duple, where each measure is a dotted quarter in a 6/8 time, but the second section would be simply twice as fast. Both styles of notation work, but the uniform 6/8 instead of 3/4 feels and looks cleaner. each bar has its own unique phrase that contributes to their larger phrases, and if you're a music theory nerd, periods, or simply group of phrases. Another way of saying this is that the harmonic rhythm simplified. In the uniform 6/8 transcription, every bar represents its own harmonic phrase. Now that we've looked at the form of Kaine salvation in terms of rhythm and phrasing, we can now address how this song is structured harmonically. Similar to its verse-chorus structure, the two sections have two different key areas. The first in G minor and the second in E minor. In music theory class, if I were to ask you, are these keys closely or distantly related? And if you're a struggling music theory student, you might logically see how one key has flats, the other has sharps, and conclude that they're just distant. They don't have many notes in common. But actually, these two keys are quite close because they share relative majors and minors with each other. Technically, G major is the relative major of E minor, and B flat major is the relative major of G minor. But what the composers at Monaco have done is cleverly connected the two seemingly disparate minor keys by borrowing E minor's relative major, G major, in section 1 to modulate to E minor. In addition to creating two versions of how the rhythms and phrases can be interpreted in Kaine salvation, I've inserted my own harmonic analysis in both so we can better understand how these two sections are related. Going forward, I'll be using what I've called the uniform 6/8 transcription. These scores are on MuseScore, so please click on the links in the description to check them out and follow along. The first section in G minor starts with a minimally rhythmic 16th note pulse to push us along. But when the singer begins, the piano sort of backs off to allow the vocalist to be the center of attention. Compared to the 16th notes in the introduction, the piano now plays slow 8th notes in the bass line to reassert the harmonic phrasing. I started using Roman numeral analysis to see if it would shed any light on the harmonies, but that didn't really help as much as the modern chord notation did. It's not exactly functional harmony we're now analyzing, it's not counterpoint. Because of all the different extended harmonies functioning for color instead of counterpoint, I began relying on labeling and understanding each chord before I moved on to the next. If you check out my analysis, you'll see that I left the Roman numerals on the bottom and the chord notation on the top. What I found was that Roman numeral analysis did prove useful, if anything, but for the modulation between G minor and E minor. What was especially shocking was how I found that there was a duality in the new key that we arrive in, what I call the chorus of the song, or part 2, the second half. When labeling key signatures, we usually default to see how many flats and sharps there are. So looking at Kaine salvation, we see 2 flats in the first half. That's B flat major. But if we use our eyes and ears, we can easily know that the majority of the chords are on G minor, so we conclude it's in G minor. That's pretty vanilla, simple, but it gets arguable in the second part. It has 1 sharp, so G major, or E if it's minor, but our ears and Roman numeral analysis could tell a different story. On its face, we can hear and see that the composer is using a pivot chord, in this case going from G minor to G major by simply shifting 1 note, the B flat, to the B natural, to transition our ears to a new key with B naturals, that is, E minor. But at the same time, we hear this transition so naturally going from a moderately distant key and tonal center. Why is that? To me, I found that this modulation functions much smoother if we treat the C major chord in the second part as the new tonic. Instead of a tonic in the old key, G minor, going to the submediate in the new key, E minor, we hear a traditional 2-5-7-1 in C. In the case of this progression, it's a D minor going to a G major 7 to a C major. This 2-5-1 is as old as Western music itself. Ever since leading tones were used, composers have used this progression in some shape or form. So much so that it's also fundamental for many young jazz musicians to learn improvisation. Because our westernized ears love leading tones so much, the dominant tonic relationship, this modulation sounds satisfying yet unique. All of this to say, this song exudes duality, rhythm, form, and harmony. In time, they're disparate yet connected. The first part's slow and the second part is fast, yet they're connected by being twice or half of each other depending on which side of things you look. In harmony, we've got 2 minor keys that are not really closely related in terms of common tones, yet they're extremely close if you shift any one chord just 1 semitone. In form, the piece is divided into two musical sections that are similar in rhythm, melody, and time, but different in key, tempo, and phrasing. This all is meant to serve a larger purpose. The music subtly, tastefully represents Kaine without cliché or cringe. That to me is why themes of music representing characters are so powerful. Long after you play a game, you can listen to a theme once more and become swept up in all of the complex emotions of a character's story, their past, present, and future. We all know this to be true if you just listen to any John Williams track. The one that comes immediately to mind is the Force theme from Star Wars. He was able to make a theme that embodied how it feels to understand a subject. How virtuosic is that? It's not about a person or a place, it's about an idea. Kaine is part replicant and part shade. It's ironic because, from what I understand of the story, the replicants and shades, originally called gestalts, were supposed to merge as part of Project Gestalt. Instead of Kaine, a replicant, merging with a gestalt to become one whole person, she's merged with a shade, a gestalt, called Tyrant, who lives off Kaine in a parasitic form. Instead of one self merge with another, as she was created to do, she's now the same self with a next-door neighbor. As she was one self, now she has to be two as Tyrant invades her thoughts and feelings while paradoxically giving her superpowers. Like many curses, she gets what she did not ask for and loses what she wanted most. And ultimately, that is what this music is meant to reflect in Kaine, a beautiful paradox of anger and happiness, depression and hope, hate and love, nihilism and purpose. To me, there's no one else in Nier so dynamic. Because of this analysis, I have a deeper appreciation for her theme, that I'm beginning to favor it more than Song of the Ancients because it reflects a character who embodies boldness, perseverance, and hope. Who else in the story could suffer so much, yet have the determination to press on? I think I've said as much as I can about a simple song without entering navel-gazing territory. I'm probably already there. If you've made it this far, I'm in disbelief, so thank you for watching this and supporting my work. Please subscribe and follow my journey as I write more reflections and analyses on the themes that matter most to us. It's a journey of creative nonfiction, and I'm having the best time writing, reflecting, and making these videos. Thank you for watching.